We're 1/3 the way through the year, and investors are facing several different economic issues. So today, we're talking about some of the most significant challenges and what you can do to overcome them. And helping us out today with this also important topic is our special guest, David Wright. David is the owner of Wright Financial Group, a retirement income store located in Ohio. David, always great to have you here.
Always great to be with you, Dave.
So, all right, you're in the thick of it. You're talking to clients each and every day in Ohio. What are some of the most common concerns? What are their biggest worries, financially speaking, today?
I think an easier question might be, what aren't they worried about? I mean, when you look at everything that's going on in our country, from inflation, gassing up and then seeing the cost of gassing up your car, from what's happening in our political world, the fear that people have is, that they're not going to have enough funds to get through the rest of their retirement. And there just seems to be right now an overall malaise kind of falling over the country based on, where we are politically. So all of those things are, coloring my clients, and as far as, their concerns about, will our country continue the way it is right now? I don't mean to be making political comments, but it seems to be that overall pervasive feeling of negativity.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the pump, and I was on a trip. I drove up to Orlando for a couple of days and came back down on business, and my SUV was halfway down. I thought I have just about enough fuel to make it from Orlando back home. I'm going to fill up, and I was again halfway down. Well, wouldn't you know it, my credit card shut off before I even got right to the tippity top on the fuel tank. And I don't know, it's $75 or $100, but that was it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. So it is becoming a bigger and bigger issue.
It is, and one of the things that it touches on is whether a client's affluent or not affluent. It affects everybody in a way that's real to them. When they gas up their car, whether they've got a lot of money in the bank or a little money in the bank or in their investments, that's a bill that is there, it's present, and it's so noticeable that it affects everyone.
Yeah. And I'm fortunate, of course, because I don't usually pay attention to what the screen reads after. I just put the pump back and I go. But when your credit card shuts off, you really can't help but notice. It's like, whoa, we have an issue here. It's not full yet. So
let me know, Dave, if you have some issues with that moving forward.
Yeah, I might be calling you for a loan. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Hey, switching gears, though, so we got this crazy inflation we've been talking about, but we also have just this report that came out recently, just a few days ago, about the GDP, the gross domestic product, our economy that was growing at 6-7% a year. If you believe the numbers, or at a higher rate, if you think like some people do, it went into negative territory first quarter of the year. Now, of course, if it's negative territory for 2 quarters, well, now we're talking about the R word, a recession. So is that something else to be worried about on top of this, or do you think that was just a false positive that we got in the first quarter?
Actually, I think it's more of a false positive. When you look at what the feds are, promising to do today, I don't think the feds are going to be able to continue to raise short-term interest rates, which, in turn will, create that flat yield curve that we had earlier in April. So I think it's a one-time anomaly. I think that they're going to not be able to push the ball down the road with short-term rates. So I think overall that GDP number will come back.
Okay. All right. I tend to agree with you. I think you're right on that, but it was a little alarming to see nonetheless. All right. So getting back to grassroots here, we have, when things are going really well, inflation's low, the stock market's going well, it's really easy to be a good manager of your money. But I think people today are realizing that it's harder now to be a good manager of your money than under times maybe just a few years ago. So what advice would you give them for those who really want to be a good, responsible money manager for themselves?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because right now, normality bias is out there. And if you don't know what normality bias is, it's obviously the bias that people have thinking that the way things have been the past 10 years are the way they're going to be in the next 10 years. And I can't tell you the number of people that I talk to from all the events that we do, seem to have this notion that you can spend growth. You can invest in mutual funds, much like they have for the past 10 or 15 years, even take money from those mutual funds regularly. And the market just seems to refill their portfolio with whatever they've removed. And the understanding of normality bias is that that isn't the reality. The reality is that things do change down the road. And it accentuates the point that people that have been doing retirement on their own, do-it-yourselfers, or working with a lot of advisors that seem to continue to promote, growth stocks that don't pay dividends, or mutual funds that are, more aggressive in nature, that they feel they've got this bottomless pit of money, are going to be shocked to find out with, the market drop so far this year, with what they've been removing in withdrawals, that they are going to be shrinking their portfolios. So that's important. They need to work with an advisor that understands purposefulness of their investment.
Well, it's always been a really bad idea in terms of investment philosophy to take income from withdrawals versus taking it from interest and dividends. But when things are going well, they can get away with it. But as Warren Buffett says, when things start turning around and the tide goes out, you can always tell who's swimming naked, and some of those folks that are taking income that way, swimming naked, are going to be in a tough position. But how about those who aren't retired yet? I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this who aren't retired, who might feel like they're a little bit behind the 8 ball when it comes to saving for retirement. Mm-hmm. What can you tell them?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to lie to them. I'm going to be right up front with them. Compound interest, studies have shown you can put less in early in your life and have more at the end because of the compound interest. So I'm not going to sugarcoat that. So somebody that comes in their 50s, that's behind the 8 ball with putting money away for themselves, I'm going to accentuate 2 or 3 major points. Number one, I'm going to accentuate to them to reduce their debt. If they can reduce their mortgage, get their mortgage eliminated, student loan debt that they're paying off for their kids, or perhaps even credit card debt, that's going to be numero uno. Number two, I'm going to mention to them that if they aren't maxing out their 401k at work, they need to do that. And maybe even consider doing Roth 401k or Roth IRA as a way to beat the tax man down the road, because we all know taxes are going to increase in the future. And the third thing is, understand in your 50s, if you've started late to the game, what is your money for? And understand that if you need a certain amount of money, then you're going to need to work until you get to that point. And you may need to draw your Social Security and or pensions a little bit later in your life than you had maybe anticipated doing it, maybe 62. You might need to wait till your full retirement age so that all this stuff works together. So get a budget, max out your 401k, perhaps look at using Roths, which don't have any tax issues down the road. Pay your tax now, none down the road, and making sure that you understand you're going to have to work a little bit longer to make all of your goals happen.
Got it. Great advice. Lastly, let's end on a positive note. Like you said, there's a lot of negatives out there: rising interest rates, a stock market that's down, inflation that seems to be crazy. What's one positive thing that we could leave our viewers with?
That if you understand that your money has a purpose, I talk about purpose all the time with my clients, and the purpose of the money that you've built should be for income. And if you're understanding that income investing means putting money away and having the ability to reinvest the income and have a few years to do that, you can actually have something that's an inflation hedge for the future, that you will even be able to draw on your accounts, even in a year like this year when we see inflation out of control, and know that the markets are down. You still have a portfolio that has a dollar value that's fixed of income that you can rely upon. That's the good news that I hang on to right now, because people, quite frankly, they're looking at their balances, whether they have investments in the market, out of the market, and that concerns them. But they have an extra gain if they have investments that are dividend and interest related, because they can still use them despite what's going on in the market. So that's the good news I would bring to the clients and other people that come to my office today.
That's right. Investing isn't all about performance. It's about making sure you invest for your purpose and your goals. Great advice, David, as usual. David Wright, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Thank you for watching today's video on the top 3 retirement challenges of 2022. If you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up button to give us a like, and make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel for new content each and every week.